Welcome to Texas PTA's Extra Credit Resource on Effective Communication. In this training, we will discuss the two key essential components for effective communication to occur. What we communicate is less likely to be misunderstood if we thoughtfully implement the 7 C's of communication. Matching your communication style to the people that you need to hear your words is an essential step to effective communication. Receiving information and active listening is an important piece to the communication process. Every communication is a process that involves two key elements, the sender and the receiver. The sender conveys an idea or concept, seeks information, or expresses a thought or emotion. The receiver's responsibility is to get the message. Being clear and concise as a sender is important to start the communication well. Unclear messages carry with them a higher risk of being misinterpreted and eliciting a response from the audience that the sender did not intend. What we say or write is less likely to be misunderstood if we thoughtfully implement the 7 C's of communication. Completeness tells us to include all relevant information. Conciseness is communicating with the least amount of words. Consideration is taking into account the feelings, opinions, mindset, etc. of the receiver. Concreteness is finding research data, facts, and figures to use it to support your content. Courtesy is being polite and showing respect for the receiver. Clarity helps to make communication clear and not vague. Correctness is to avoid spelling, grammar, pronunciation, and any other mistakes. Let's look at each one of these C's a little bit more in depth and ideas on how to implement them to communicate efficiently. When you create a message that is complete, the receiver will have all the information needed to be conveyed with that communication. There will be no space for doubts, and the complete message will ensure effective communication. Tips on completeness. Include all the important details. Organize the content of the message for effectiveness. Keep the perspective of the receiver. Conciseness means communicating with the least amount of words. You should keep the communication accurate and to the point. With non-repetitive and limited words, conciseness ensures the crisp delivery of the message. Tips on conciseness. Use short and simple sentences. For verbal communication, avoid using filler words. For example, I mean, like. Keep the number of words to a minimum. Consideration tells us to consider the receiver of the communication. You should put yourself in the place of the receiver to understand their views, needs, emotions, etc. When you understand the receiver well, you will communicate in the right way and get your message across in the right sense. Tips on consideration. Show a sincere interest in the receiver. Make sure you use simple, easy to understand, and positive words. Check your message and modify it to suit the receiver's needs. Communication is considered concrete when it is clear and there is the use of research materials such as facts, figures, and data. Concreteness ensures that there will be no misinterpretation or miscommunication. Tips on concreteness. The language of your communication is clear and exact. Include facts and figures. Take time to do proper research and gather relevant data. To be courteous means to be civil, polite, thoughtful, and respectful. When you are communicating with someone, use courtesy by showing respect for the feelings of the other person. Be thoughtful of the perspective of the person and speak in a positive manner. Tips on courtesy. Think about the opinions and feelings of the receiver. Be focused on the receiver of the message. Make sure your message is positive and free of bias. Clarity means whether your communication is clear or not. Tips on clarity. Keep your message short and simple. Use easy to understand words. Avoid using jargon. Use language that the receiver understands. Correctness is a quality of keeping your communication error-free. This principle of communication helps in building trust and respect with the use of the right language. The communication should be correct in the sense that it should be free of spelling and grammatical mistakes. Tips on correctness. Try to avoid grammatical mistakes in written communication. Make sure you check all those spellings. For verbal communication, try to use the right pronunciation of words. Another important thing to consider and accommodate as an effective communicator is that we all have different communication styles. No one communication style is better than another. Picking the wrong style for a particular audience, whether it's one person or a 100, shuts down listening and can lead to trouble. Learning to build flexibility around your preferred style allows others to more successfully hear the important things that you need to communicate. An analytical communicator likes hard data, real numbers, and tends to be suspicious of people who aren't in command of the facts and data. They typically like very specific language and dislike vague verbiage. Those with an analytical communication style often have very little patience for lots of feeling and emotional words in communication. One big plus of having an analytical communication style is that you're often able to look at an issue logically and dispassionately. This means others tend to see you as having high levels of data and informational expertise. The potential downside of having an analytical communication style is that you may strike certain people as being cold or unfeeling. This sometimes has a negative political and relational consequences. Intuitive communicators like the big picture. They avoid getting bogged down in details, and they cut right to the chase. They don't need to hear things in perfect linear order, but prefer instead a broad overview that lets them easily skip right to the end point. One big plus of having an intuitive communication style is that your communication is quick and to the point. You don't get stalled by needing too many details, and you're comfortable with big ideas and out-of-the-box thinking. Because you're good with thinking big, you also enjoy challenging convention. The potential downside of having an intuitive communication style is that you may not always have enough patience when you're in a situation that actually requires getting into the nitty-gritty detail, and you may risk missing an important point. Functional communicators like process, detail, timelines, and well thought out plans. They like to communicate things in a step-by-step fashion so nothing gets missed. One big plus of having a functional communication style is that your communication generally hits all the details and nothing gets missed. When you're on a team, people will often turn to you to be the implementer because they have confidence in your love of process and detail. And because you're focused on things like process and detail, you're the person who is typically asked to play devil's advocate. The potential downside of having a functional communication style is that you may risk losing the attention of your audience. Personal communicators value emotional language and connection and use that as a mode of discovering what others are really thinking. They find value in assessing not just how people think, but how they feel. They tend to be a good listener and diplomat. They can smooth over conflicts, and they're typically concerned with the health of their numerous relationships. One big plus of having a personal communication style is that your communication allows for you to build deep personal relationships with others. People will often turn to you as the glue that holds the groups together. and you're typically able to pick up vibes that others may miss because you're very attuned to the emotional aspect of communication. The potential downside of having a personal communication style is that you may occasionally be scoffed as touchy-feely, and you're also more likely to become exasperated and emotionally upset. Remember, one style isn't better than another. The key is to first understand your own communication style so that you can match your communication style to that of your audience. Matching your communication styles to the people that you need to hear your words is an essential step to effective communication. Remember that communication graphic we looked at the beginning of this presentation? Sending the right message is only half of the picture. Listening and receiving is another huge component to the process of communication. Epictetus, the ancient Greek philosopher, said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Let's look at the Chinese symbol for listening because it demonstrates the essential components of active listening. The symbol is made up of 6 words. You. When others are talking, you, as the listener, play an equal role for the communication to be effective. If you're not playing your part, the message may be confused or lost. Eyes. Listen with your eyes. Maintain eye contact as you listen. Observe the emotions and body language of the speaker. You will pick up on so much more that is being communicated as you become more observant and interested in the speaker. Undivided attention. Lean in. Give the speaker your undivided attention. Don't become distracted by other people or by technology. Heart. Listen with your heart. Be open to their opinion and their logic, even if it differs from yours. Take time to understand their perspective before responding. You must listen without bias or judgment. Don't assume anything and ask follow-up questions to better understand them. King. Treat the speaker like royalty. Imagine that they are the most important person in the world and give them the respect and attention that they deserve. Ear. Listen with your ears. Take time to listen to the exact words, phrases, and tone of communication. Every communication involves 2 key elements, the sender and the receiver. What we communicate is less likely to be misunderstood if we thoughtfully implement the 7 C's of communication. Matching your communication style to the people that you need to hear your words is an essential step to effective communication. Active listening and receiving is another huge component to the process of communication. Here are some resources. If you need support, please reach out to your council president, field service representative, or other Texas PTA support. Thank you for watching Effective Communication. To learn more about effective communication, as well as many other leadership skills, check out our full resource library at texaspta.org/leadership.